Hey everyone, I'm Liz van Zyl. I'm a marketing consultant in HR technology. I've been in marketing for just over a decade now. I ran my own marketing and communications agency back in South Africa. And then about 3 years ago, I immigrated to Australia. That's when I started looking after the growth of HR technology businesses, both in Australia and internationally. There has been so many plot twists in my career to date, but I think one thing that's remained consistent is my passion for how you can formulate messaging to influence how brands are perceived and ultimately to influence action across your target audience and build community and enforces sustainability. And I'd say my career sprints could be broken down into three sprints. The first was after graduating, I spent some time in corporate, but that really wasn't for me. So I quickly got out of that sprint or out of that lane and rather into the entrepreneurship lane. Which is when I ran my own marketing and communications agency. I started as a freelancer, never really intending to grow a business. And then just off the back of some demand and an inability to say no to clients, I needed to scale up. And so prior to closing the business to move to Australia, I had a staff complement of 3 people. During that sprint, I learned a great deal about business, customer management, and just wearing multiple hats at the same time. Then I moved over to Australia, where I really kind of settled into marketing in HR technology. That's been an incredible journey, almost more of a marathon than a sprint, in terms of building my understanding of the ecosystem internationally and also building and almost nurturing my community and my network. The worst career advice I've ever gotten has been lean into stability, look for security. Often you're told, oh, go and work for a big corporate, it's stable, it's secure. And I disagree entirely. I think in today's ecosystem, nothing is secure. Security is a fallacy almost that we lean on to help us feel comfortable. And I actually think growth happens on the edge, at the vanguard, where things are naturally unstable, perhaps dynamic. And that's where you transform. And so if anything, jump. Don't lean into stability. Jump into what sets your soul on fire, because that's where the growth is. And I think that's where the fulfillment is. I wish I knew the value of community when I started my career. There's a concept in Africa called Ubuntu, which directly translated means I am because you are. And I see that play out in modern professional communities all the time. In the HR tech community, or in the greater HR and recruitment community, we pull each other up, we back each other, and we support each other and learn from each other. And that community becomes invaluable because you're ultimately really crowdsourcing your learnings and that drives growth, or that accelerates growth significantly. So if anything, I wish I'd learned the value of tapping into something greater than myself, like a community, earlier on in my career. So I've made a couple of big mistakes or failures during the course of my career. There was a time when I accidentally sent the wrong marketing email to the wrong list. And I really let my team down because everyone else had executed impeccably. And this was a long lead up to the send of this email, and I rushed into it trying to please everyone and did something wrong. There was another occasion in which I hosted a webinar, and I just was so self-conscious that I stumbled all over myself and stuttered and really just didn't do the panelists that I was interviewing justice. But I think there's a theme for me in terms of the biggest mistakes I've made in my career have centered around being afraid to speak up, being afraid that people won't see my value, being afraid of making a mistake, being afraid of not pleasing everyone and delivering immediately. And I think there's once you start maturing into your career, there's this self-acceptance, or just this acceptance generally, that you don't need to be afraid because you've got this. And even if you don't know the answers, people are generally open to understanding your vulnerability, and you can actually use that to unearth greater knowledge that can serve everyone. Firstly, I don't know if I would call myself successful. I would much rather call myself a lifelong learner who is energized and fulfilled by the pursuit of excellence, and success kind of naturally, hopefully, will come from that. I would say one thing that's really powered my growth has been strategic partnerships with people and businesses whose values align with that of my own. I really think people propel each other forward, and I've been lucky to garner a lot of goodwill with incredible people from whom I've learned a lot. And ultimately, I stand on the shoulders of giants, which has elevated me to a whole different perspective.